Hello team, this is another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is a very late night breaking news update for me, and I'll report more on this tomorrow morning when I get up and do my proper news pieces. But just to let you know that there is a seemingly massive attack on a Russian airbase in a place called Morozovsk. There are some claims that there's been about 60 explosions there. I don't know whether that's drones being hit in the air by air defenses, explosions on the ground, secondary explosions, but there certainly is something happening there. Many loud explosions, says Ukraine battle map here, at Morozovsk Airbase in Russia, located 300 kilometers from the front in Ukraine. Over 60 explosions have been reported. The airbase is home to 36 Su-34s and 4 Su-24 Russian fighter jets. There are varying claims as to how many planes might be there. There was a satellite image from, I think, Monday suggesting that there were a number of planes there, possibly not as many as that. As Tim White says, somewhat predictably, Russia says it's repelling the attack. Indeed, there is evidence of drones being hit, such as in the clip he shows. Whether they managed to get them all remains to be seen. There are reports that of military bases and even air bases lacking in air defense. So that is certainly true. I've talked often before about the idea that it's a case of having a blanket that's too small for the bed, and Russia's a big country. They've got the front lines in Ukraine to try and have air defense covering, and so it's a case of not having enough to cover a vast country, and as a result there are places that require more air defences than they actually have. No reports here. It says on April the 1st, satellite images show that Russia had 13 Su-34s and 5 Su-35s present at the base in Morozovsk. I could have missed some in this image, but the quality is not good enough to identify particular areas, he says. There are other claims that there were more than that on that date. As mentioned here, 60 explosions being claimed. Massive attack of Ukrainian armed forces, drones on Morozovsk. They aim at the airfield, but our fighters shoot down the drones. The lights went out in some places. Local residents counted up to 50 explosions there, and then later more than 60 explosions. And so, yeah, we'll have to wait to see what the outcome is tomorrow. But it is something we've been expecting. Here is the airbase. In fact, I'll show it on my map here, so give you a sense of where we're talking about. That is a fair distance from the front lines, but well within the range of the drones that Ukraine is consistently using. I mean, we've had drones that go over 1,200 kilometers. I mean, if you're sending that from a safe distance behind the front lines, that's 370 kilometers. So 300 kilometers. Yeah, that is. Anyway, there's the airbase to the south of the settlement. But yeah, information will be coming through thick and fast, no doubt. Here we go. Sentinel-2 imagery confirms the base is still packed, is the claim here. As a Su-34 hub. Russian fighters launching standoff glide bomb attacks over western Ukraine. So although there's long been this claim that there's nothing Ukraine can do about these glide bomb attacks, really there is. I mean, either you draw your Patriot launchers close to the front line, which is pretty risky, and hit some of those planes, which has been done previously. We've seen a number of airframes get shot down in various places near the front lines or behind the front lines, both around Mariupol and down in Kherson Oblast, but also up in Donetsk too, and even in Bryansk. So that's one option. The other option is hit the bases. And we've been seeing the Orofonies get hit. We've been wondering, I've been saying, well, you would if you could, you answer, you can't. So they haven't had the number of drones to be hammering more targets than they have been doing. Either they are making them and using them at the rate they're making them, or they're stockpiling them. And it appears that, I wonder whether they have been stockpiling them, is that this is a sort of attack that if this is a stacked airbase with a number of airframes, then you want to hit it with as many drones as you can, because in the absence of being able to use something like an ATACMS cluster munition, it wouldn't be able to reach there. But the idea is that you have lots of bomblets going off all over the shop, and that takes out a number of airframes. If you're having to use drones, you are going to need a lot of drones to try and take out as many airframes as possible. So ideally, you want to. I mean, if I was in charge, whatever, in a perfect world, I guess is what I'm saying, is you would have 100 drones, right? And 1,000 drones, right? The more drones you have, the better chance you have of taking out as much as possible. So it's going to be really interesting to find out, if we do, how many drones they did send at the airbase, because there'd be, fairly significant drones, you would imagine. I'm sure they won't be using drones with tiny warheads. They're going to be fairly sizable warheads hitting that airbase. So anyway, we'll wait to see what the socials bring us tomorrow in terms of open source intelligence. But at the moment, there are signs of explosions. That might be the drones being shot down by air defense. It's difficult to tell. There's not an awful lot of footage. But I assume that there will be some damage done there, and hopefully it is good news coming from the airbase tomorrow. Just the final one here is PS01 saying, I'm confident 80% that the Russian airbase has experienced some serious losses. Okay. It seems I was right to be confident. He says later significant damages according to people on the spot. By the way, did I tell you there were Su-34s there? Yep. Okay, so this is a translation apparently of someone nearby, taking into account the fact that information has already been sent through the channels. Morozovsk Rostov region was subjected to a massive attack by UAVs, by drones, and that had previously flown over Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. It's difficult to even name the quantity. We will not comment on the situation. The damage will become clear no earlier than in the morning. And I don't think there's any other data coming through now. Let's just see if I don't think there's anything else other than to say, this is hopefully a decent strike for the Ukrainians, doing damage to one of the biggest challenges to the Ukrainian army at the moment, which is these guided glide bombs that are routinely thrown all over the front line and in the border areas. I wonder whether you will see this happen to a number of different air bases, such as the ones providing the or housing the airframes that drop those on the northern border as well, whether at some point you'll see that. And then you've got air bases that are slightly further afield, such as the Engels Air Base in Saratov over here, that's already been struck previously by the odd long-range drone that has done damage there. But it's about getting these waves of much larger numbers of drones to try and spread the explosions across a larger area in the target at the target airfield, and hopefully take out more airframes and even some of the infrastructure of the airbase. There's I think that's the Engels 2 airbase at Saratov. So I'd imagine my prediction would be, as the Ukrainians ramp up the scale of their drone production, they'll just be throwing these more frequently at different military installations, as well as, I assume, continuing to hit the oil refineries and energy infrastructure in Russia. So this is possibly a really good night for the Ukrainians. Good news that they'll be able to do this. And then the Russians, the choice the Russians have is like, oh bugger, we didn't have enough. If it turns out they didn't have enough air defense there, then they'll have to get enough air defense there. Or they move their planes to a place where they can't practically use them in the war. So if they're going to keep using their airframes from these bases, then they'll have to supply really decent air defences to those bases, which, given the notion that they don't have enough air defence pieces, they'll be drawing them from somewhere. Where will they be drawing them from? Where does that leave the hole? When you pull that blanket across to Morozovsk Airbase, where is the blanket now not covering? Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Take care, and I'll speak to you tomorrow morning. Or this morning, actually.